Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you for having patience and sticking with me. This is a beautiful, really beautiful needle case design. But it would make a really gorgeous gift to give to anyone that does bead embroidery, beadwork. So if anybody wants to make me one, that would be really awesome. So I've just used a bunch of beads that I've made my own bead mix for, and obviously it stores needles. You could even keep it in your handbag with just some cotton thread, you know, for emergencies. It's a beautiful thing. And if you're feeling really crazy, maybe you could even cover a lipstick with it. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and let's get started. So obviously we need a needle, some file line. I use 6 pound, a needle insert. This is made from wood, freely available. Bunch of crystals, whatever you like, it doesn't matter. You may or may not use all of them, but just a selection that go with your seed beads is great. You're going to need about 10 grams of delicate beads, size 11. I've made my own bead soup. And it's a great way to use up little tiny bits left over. And you're going to need the tiniest amount of number 15s. So loaded up my needle here. And I've just picked up 6 delicate beads. And I'm going to join these in a circle because we're going to start the base of the cover. I'm going to do something completely bonkers here. You can use the surgeon's knot. You want to leave about 6-inch tail, but I'm going to come back through all of those 6 beads again. This looks weird, but trust me, it's a great technique and I'll absolutely love it. So we come through the hoop that we've created, and you're going to get like a D shape. And from the D shape, we're just going to go back up through a couple of beads on the opposite side. What I love about this is there's no need for that knot, particularly if you're using long lengths. This is a really great way to start any circular bead pattern. So there's no knot, there's no surgeon's knot, there's no overlapping of beads when you tie the knot. So we're just going to pick up one and go through the next bead. You want that bead to sit in between, just so. I'm going to pick up another one through the next bead. Don't over tighten. It has to be laying flat, which is why I'm keeping it between my thumb and my forefinger. I'm pulling the additional bead in, but I'm also keeping my work flat as I go. Another one. So in effect, we're working around the circle. We're going to do this 6 times. Obviously you can stop, start, pause, rewind. Okay, so that's number 5. The last one, and seriously, I had a fun time with this right here. As you'll see, it got all kind of tricksy and didn't want to sit there, and take your time, breathe. I get terribly excited when I'm doing videos and I become impatient and I want it to just work immediately, but it doesn't always. On the upside, I guess it shows you how you can work that bead into place. I haven't crossed the file line, done anything nasty particularly. There we go. It's in. Yeah, got it. So we've got 6 on the outside of the 6 at the beginning. So we're going to step up. And all that means, it sounds terribly complicated, but all you're doing is working to the outside of the ring. Now on this round, we're going to add 2 delicate beads in every single stitch. So we're just adding 2 between each one of the delicate beads we added in the last round. Keep your work flat, don't pull it tight. Just wants to just sit. Those beads just enough to sit. Right, keep your tail end out. Why is my tail end always a bugbear? But never mind, moving on. So there we go, another 2. Another 2. And each time I'm just stitching between the beads of the previous round. So this is the last stitch, and you can see I can't add another 2 here. In fact, I can't add another bead. So I must have to step up, which is just here. And your work should look like this now. So in this round, we're going to add in 1 between every set of 2 beads we added in the last round. We're also going to add in 1 between those 2 beads. So 1 between the set of 2, and 1 in between the set of 2, 1 in the set of 2, and 1 in between the set of 2. You continue this all the way around. What you're actually doing, and it may seem a little strange at the moment, but it's a hexagon. It has 6 sides. And yes, I know you're going to say, well, we're doing a circular thing, and it works. Trust me. Don't question it. Just beat it. If you have a better way of working a circle or working the numbers out, that's just fine. In fact, I would love to see it. So you have the preference, there we go, there's the one in between, and the one in between the two. Do make sure that that one pops in between. Sometimes they don't want to. So one in between the set of two. And this last one, or actually these last two beads, you're going to feel the twist. It will start to want to twist in your fingers because the tension's tight. Don't let it. Use your fingers to keep this piece of work flat. You see that motion there? That's it. And then we're going to step up again. Okay. So you can now clearly see it's starting to represent a hexagon. Don't panic. It's fine. So on this next round, we're going to add in 12 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now I lost my way on this particular round. I don't know why. So if you feel uncomfortable, the best thing to do is count out those 12 beads. You know you have to add 12. So if you count them out, then you stitch them in. And if you haven't stitched in enough, or you need to add another one, you know you've gone wrong somewhere. And I've just whizzed my needle off the end of the thread. There we go. It's always important to remember everybody makes mistakes. Stuff happens. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, lost my thread again. Never mind. So we're at 6. So this is number 7. Yeah, when I can thread my needle. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I know now that I have to step up. I don't have to put a bead in there, I just got to step up. And I think that's where I went wrong when I was recording it for the first time. So there we go. And now on to the next round. So we're just going to be adding in 1 bead between each of the sticking out peyote beads. Picking up one, going through the next bead. Picking up another one, going through the next bead. And another one through the next bead. Next bead. Obviously, I think it's important to note here that I'm kind of assuming that you understand peyote, that it's like building a house. The beads sit next to each other, but they're also, because of your bead weeding, they're joined to the row before. So I'm using my thumbnail to kind of help these beads start to sit in a curve, because they will want to. So we're going to go from the hexagon to the circle without adding or take away anything. So no special stitch here, it's just tension. And that little blob is a fire line join. Patrick Duggan does a wonderful video on that, and I've been working with it for over a year now and I've never looked back. So here's the last one of this round, and again we're just gonna step up. Right there. Work another couple of rounds. So you should have a small cup. And now it's capping over the end there. Can you see that? So at this point you really want to try, although it's awkward, it really is awkward, to try and work around the form. And the reason I say this is because although it's just straightforward peyote and you just don't stop, you work around and do a step up, if you work off the form, you're going to find your tension isn't just quite right. Maybe you can't get the form in. Maybe you're not pulling your thread tight enough. So I would recommend that you work quite a few rows and don't pull your thread outwards. Always in line with the beads that you've added. So try and show you how here. So the needle's going in at 45 degrees. I find this really helps save your needle, stops a lot of bending. Don't pull on your needle, pull on your thread to create the tension, and it will slip off. This is why I've said it's the worst part of it. It's the most tricky part, but it's worth persevering with, because if you work it off the form, your beading might be too lax, for it. Oops, bead. Might be too lax, or it might be too tight, and you won't be able to get the form back in the beadwork. So, yep, it's awkward. But we're beaders, right? I don't do things easy. There we go, and I'm pulling thread, as I said, in line with the beads. But it's still spinning around. It's not quite tight. I think you'll probably have to work maybe an inch of beadwork before you'll find you no longer need to hold on to either one. The beads will be tight enough. There's no glue necessary. Be quite tight enough to hold the beads to the form, and then that will enable you to hold your beadwork in any way you like, or your preference. So we can watch me all day sit here and do row after row after row. But it's just peyote. Yes, you're just picking up a bead and going through the next bead that's sticking up. You'll see each time I'm trying to keep the line of where I pull the thread, sticking it back on that form. Oh dear me. Yep. I've seen quite a few videos on YouTube, and they made it look so easy, but they never ever say, you know, oh, actually this is no, this is wrong, and now I've just dropped a bead and it's come off the form, and I'm human. It's okay. Remember, you're not going to make a million of these. You're doing something special, and you're creating it for a special person. And so there's the step up. So you can clearly see I've moved from flat to a cup shape now. And so you keep going, and when I've done a few rows, I'm going to come back and show you how much easier that is to hold on the form. So here we are. I've done another 2 or 3 rows, maybe even 4. It's not wobbling around, but it's still coming away from the form. It's not spinning though, so this is good. And so we need to keep going, and eventually, probably about after an inch or so, it's just not going to move off the form anymore. So here we are, and I've done just under a couple of inches, I think. And I've just kept going, and now you can see I'm not going to get that wooden insert out anytime soon. And it's looking pretty good. So I'm really quite happy with that. Quite often when we make a bead soup, we add dull beads and pretty beads. And even the best of us, including me, will always pick up the brighter beads or the prettiest beads when we're trying to do something that's freeform. So what I recommend is just grab a few beads and stick them in a line. It's easy to do, and then just work across the line. And it doesn't matter which colour you pick up, just work across that line and everything will be fine. So I've continued up, excuse me, the tube, and you can see the tube's not going anywhere, it's not coming out at all, and there is a groove here. You're going to peyote past that groove. What happens is, even though my beadwork is tight enough, once you peyote past this one, you'll find that line itself is slightly tighter than the next couple of rows. And so even if your beadwork is just a little bit on the loose side, when you get to the groove and you work another row, you're going to find that your beadwork automatically tightens around that line. So you can see there's just a few beads there, but I'm nearly up to the line. And the next row and the subsequent row will mean that I'm crossing that line. And that's gonna, so I'm just, dragging out my beads, and that's the way I'm gonna work them. And it's a really, really effective way to use a bead soup and to use up all your little bits and not totally focus on the pretty colours. So we need to work past maybe another couple of rows, and so there we are. I'm gone past the groove now, and I'm going to leave it at this point, and I'm not going to cut the end. Check that I've got everything right. No bead loops, no missing beads, and I'm not going to cut this end. We're just going to put it to one side for one moment, and we're going to deal with the lid. And the reason I'm doing that is because when we do the lid, we want to create a join, a seamless join. So we're going to create the lid just as we did before. I need you to go and make another one of those bases. And we're going to add the beads at the top. I'm using lots of lovely crystals, and yeah, I'm going to make a fringe. Why not? It's fussy, but it's pretty. So I'm going to do that. But you could just use a bead at the top. This is a round one. But if you're just going to use a bead at the top, I'd recommend a rondelle, which is a slightly flatter Swarovski crystal. and it'll become like a button if you don't like fuss. But I love fuss and I love crystals. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with that. So here we are, and I've duplicated the base, and I'm going to use that to make the top. I've re-threaded my needle to the end thread, but it's on the wrong side. So all you have to do is see where my thread's coming out. It's just poke your needle through to an adjacent bead. Want it to be on the center ring. Just poke it through to the opposite side, 45-degree angle again. It really works when helping to keep your needle in a nice shape. So now I can turn the work over and drop it. Here we are. So now I'm going to begin my fringe. It doesn't matter how many beads you pick up, how you add them. I'm going to use a large, I think this one's about 10 millimeters. It's a Swarovski crystal and it's a round, but you can see it's got a really large hole, and that's great because I want to go through that 3 times, and I already know that. And I'm going to need some of those 15s put out, just teeny amount. So it doesn't matter how many you count, but for the purposes of this tutorial, what I've done is try to centralize the large bead I've chosen. So I'm just going to pick up 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'm going to pick up the big bead. So every time I go through the big bead, I'm going to pick up 6. And you can see me just skipping beads. It's completely random. I've no interest in how many I'm picking up. It's not important. You could have a lot of fun here. You could, I don't know, if you're comfortable with fringing, you could make some leaves. You could add in further embellishments. So then I'm going to pick up another large crystal, and I'm going to pick up 3 of the number 15s. I'm going to come back through the crystal I just added all of the beads before. This is basic fringing. I'm sure I'm boring a lot of you with the details, but it is a tutorial, and you know, I mean, some people might like to know how to do that. So we're just going to go through the rest of the seed beads. Through the main crystal and through the 6 beads that I originally picked up, the first 6 beads. And it really is important, whoops, boomerang, it is important to restitch everything you've just done, because those crystals can cut and you don't want to disappoint. So we're going to come back to make, if you need to tighten it, that's the way to do it. Just pull it out from the end loop. See, so that they're all set nice. So we're going to come back through the bead we are exiting from the opposite side. just so. Just see the thread there. And I am going to go back up through all of the beads. And this is why it's a good idea to use a large crystal as a central bead if this is what you want to do. You can add a fringe in any way you like. This is just my choice. So I'm going through all of the beads and back through that large crystal. So in effect, because I'm working with £6 ply line, I've just made it £12. So I've come back through all of the 3/15s, back down the line again, back through the main crystal, back through the 6. I'm not going to get it in one pass, but that's okay. You don't. I'm rushing because I'm terribly excited and I want to share it, but you don't have to be so whizzy with it. Taking care of something that's really quite special is important. So there we are, and I've passed through all of the 6 now, and I'm going to come back through that original bead from the opposite side, and then I'm just going to hop over to the next bead of the center circle. What I've chosen to do is to do 3 long strands and 3 short strands. So the short strands won't go through the main bead. For the short strands, you can pick up whichever beads you like, using a large crystal at the end, and then just the 3 number 15 seed beads, which I'm going to omit to come back through all the beads that I've just added. You then need to pass back through the bead that your thread is exiting at the center from the opposite side. And again, you need to reinforce this one, so we'll come back when I've done that. So I've gone through all the beads again, and I'm coming back through from the opposite side, and I'm going to keep working around, adding my little fringe on the top. So that's that one done. So I move over to the next bead, and this time I'm going to go through the main large bead. So I'm picking up the same number of beads as I did before. I can keep that one out of the way, pass through this bead. So here we are, I've reinforced that pear drop bead, going back through Delica at the centre from the opposite side. And then I'm going to pass through the next delica, and then I'm going to add another short fringe at this point. You can see it was sticking, the file line knot, but it still goes through. Just hold your work firmly. So this is another short strand. Principle is exactly the same before, back through all the beads, through the center bead on the opposite side, and reinforce it. So when you've done that, the next one will be going through the main big bead again, and then the next one here will be a short one. So here we are. I've finished all three. You can see that's the result. You can make the fringe any way you like. It's just my choice. So you can see here I'm at the center. So I'm just going to end the thread that I've been working with by weaving through a few beads until I'm happy that that's secure. Then I'm going to add my needle to the other side, the other end of the thread. I'll come back when I've done that. So I've threaded my needle onto the other end of the file line, and now I'm just going to work. You just need to work the lid exactly as you did for the base. So if you need to refer back to the beginning of the video, please do. So here I am, and I've worked all the way up the lid, and I just wanted to show you that if you look at the lid, you can see that it slopes inwards slightly. Now you're not going to see it when you've added the beads for the next round, but what should happen is that tiny slope will make the beads just a bit tighter, and therefore your wooden form will stay inside. So I think this is going to be the last row on the lid. No, maybe not. I think maybe another row. So we'll come back when I've done that. So I've completed another 2 rows, and you can see that the last row of peyote is just sitting above that curve on the lid. So I'm going to go through all of these beads again, the last 2 rows, to reinforce and pull that in really tight. So I'm hoping that I won't need to use any glue to hold the beads on. So I'm just going to present it to the other side now, and we'll see, moment of truth, if that's actually going to stay on or not. Yes, it stayed on. Yep. So I'm happy with that. Now if we're going really close, you can see that there's 1 bead missing So what I'm going to do, move that one, and I'm just going to do an extra row using the thread that I did not finish off. I'm also going to reinforce the end of this. I now know that that's in the right place, so I'm going to reinforce it, and then I'm going to just weave through all the beads until you're sure that your thread end is secure, and then you should trim it. If you find that the beads aren't staying on the form, you can glue it in. I would recommend using something like this crafter's pick. I absolutely love this, simply because you can wash your hands and it's non-toxic. Or you could use E6000. If you are going to glue it in, I recommend that you do put the glue on the beads on the inside and then slip the form in. Work your last row on your base, and when you've finished going all the way around, reinforce it again by going around once more and then ending your thread. So I've worked a few of the beads of the last row, and I'm just going to check that when I put the lid on that it actually fits. Yes, it does. So I've continued that round, just adding in the last bead, then I will reinforce the round. I'm just checking that I haven't got any thread loops or anything nasty before I end this thread, so we're all good. So I'm just going to reinforce that round, and having done that, I'm going to tie in my thread by creating that little break, moving on a few beads and doing another, and I'm going to do that 2 or 3 times so that I know that the thread end is nice and secure. So I've done that, and I'm just having a final check round to make sure that I don't need to unpick anything, and once I'm happy, then I'm going to end that thread. And there we are, one finished peyote needle case. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, had fun making it, and I'll be back with the next tutorial very soon, I hope. Bye for now.